The 2016 and 2020 U.S. presidential elections captured the world's attention. Donald Trump's victory shocked many and sparked debate about American politics. Trump's success was fueled by populism, nationalism, and identity politics. His blunt language and personal attacks stirred emotions, breaking with modern campaigning norms. His slogan, "Make America Great Again," resonated with people who felt left behind by economic and social changes. By analyzing political psychology, media studies, and sociology, we can understand Trump's appeal. We'll explore the historical context, the psychological mechanisms, and the media's role in shaping voter behavior. We'll look at how populism, nationalism, and identity politics have influenced American politics. This video aims to provide a deeper understanding of these forces. Understanding these factors helps us understand the current political landscape. To understand Trump's rise, we have to look at the historical forces that have shaped the American political psyche. Founding ideals like individual liberty and American exceptionalism play a key role. These ideals have existed alongside internal tensions and contradictions. Figures throughout history have tapped into these ideals, sometimes promoting unity, sometimes exploiting division. Understanding these currents is essential to understanding Trump's impact. Trump's populism has deep roots in American political history. Figures like Andrew Jackson and Ronald Reagan exemplify the tension between everyday people and the elites. Populist leaders often channel resentment against corruption and the indifference of those in power. Reagan's conservative values and optimistic patriotism resonated with many. This dissatisfaction with the elites ultimately found a powerful voice in Trump's rise. Early 21st century anxieties about the economy, society, and culture brought Trump to power. Globalization, with its job losses and increased competition, fueled resentment towards the elite. Rapid demographic and cultural shifts challenged traditional notions of American identity. Trump's message resonated with those who felt lost and left behind. He presented himself as someone who would break the old rules and restore America to a past golden age. Social identity theory helps explain the passionate support for Trump. People build their self-image based on social characteristics like nationality and political views. Trump used this by highlighting outside threats, creating an us versus them division. His words boosted unity among supporters who felt left out. This theory explains how appealing to group identity can influence individuals. The strong support Mr. Trump received can be explained by the phenomenon of cognitive dissonance. His supporters were faced with information that challenged their positive views of him, but they used psychological mechanisms to lessen this discomfort. Motivated reasoning led them to process information in a way that confirmed their pre-existing beliefs. Fact-checking and investigative reports had little impact on core supporters. This steadfastness can be attributed to cognitive dissonance and motivated reasoning. Some personality traits make individuals more susceptible to the influence of authoritarian leaders. People with authoritarian personalities value conformity, obedience, and strong leadership. Trump's rhetoric resonated with those who had authoritarian tendencies. His populist message framed him as a champion against a corrupt elite. Understanding these dynamics helps explain Trump's rise in influence. Trump's fame and unconventional campaign style proved effective. He bypassed traditional media, using social media to communicate directly with the public. His rallies were loud, boisterous events, packed with enthusiastic supporters. His speeches tapped into the anger and resentment towards the political establishment. Trump's success disrupted political norms, setting the stage for a unique presidency. The key to Donald Trump's political success was his masterful ability to manipulate the media. He understood the power of performance, the allure of controversy, and the insatiable hunger for news in the digital age. He weaponized these insights, bending the media ecosystem to his advantage and becoming a master of modern media. Trump's background in reality television gave him an intuitive grasp of how to capture attention and shape the narrative. He understood that shocking pronouncements, personal attacks, and inflammatory rhetoric, however unfounded, generated headlines and kept him in the public eye. This strategy, while infuriating to many, proved remarkably effective. Cable news channels, locked in a fierce battle for ratings, gave his rallies and pronouncements endless airtime. His pronouncements, often delivered via Twitter, bypassed traditional journalistic filters, becoming instant news and dominating online forums. This constant exposure, amplified by social media echo chambers, allowed Trump to circumvent traditional media gatekeepers and control his message. His supporters, bombarded with pro-Trump content, felt their views validated, while his opponents grew increasingly disillusioned with a media landscape seemingly unable to hold him accountable. Trump's media strategy, while often criticized, was undeniably effective. He understood that in the digital age, attention is currency, and he was a master at generating it. This mastery, coupled with an intuitive grasp of popular grievances, allowed him to build a movement and ultimately ascend to the presidency, forever changing the American political landscape. Donald Trump's candidacy exposed and worsened deep divisions that had been simmering in American society for decades. His campaign rhetoric, often laced with xenophobia, nativism, and cultural resentment, resonated with a segment of voters who felt increasingly alienated from mainstream culture and the economy. His promise to make America great again was a nostalgic appeal to a bygone era, a time when America was perceived as more culturally unified and economically dominant. This message resonated particularly with white working-class voters who had borne the brunt of globalization and felt their values and way of life were under threat. On the other hand, Trump's candidacy was met with alarm by his opponents. They viewed his rhetoric as divisive and dangerous, a threat to the very foundations of American democracy. They organized protests, registered voters, and spoke out against what they saw as a dangerous turn towards authoritarianism and intolerance. The 2016 election became a referendum on the soul of America, a battle between two opposing visions for the nation's identity and future. Trump's victory, while shocking to many, was a stark reflection of the deep polarization that had come to define American politics. His presidency would further deepen these divides, as his policies on immigration, healthcare, and climate change were met with fierce resistance. Political discourse became increasingly toxic, fueled by partisan media and the echo chambers of social media. Rather than healing the divisions within American society, Trump's presidency seemed to exacerbate them, leaving the nation more polarized than ever. Donald Trump's rise to power was fueled by a potent mix of fear and anxiety that had been simmering in parts of American society for decades. These anxieties, stemming from economic instability, cultural shifts, and changing demographics, created fertile ground for a leader who promised to restore a sense of order and security to an increasingly chaotic and unpredictable world. The decline of manufacturing, the rise of globalization, and the lingering effects of the 2008 financial crisis left many working-class Americans feeling economically vulnerable. Jobs were lost, wages stagnated, and the promise of upward mobility seemed increasingly out of reach. This economic anxiety fueled resentment towards the elite and a yearning for a return to a time when jobs were plentiful and the future seemed brighter. Adding to this economic insecurity were rapid cultural and demographic changes. The United States was becoming increasingly diverse, with waves of immigration from non-European countries challenging traditional notions of American identity. Social movements advocating for the rights of women, LGBTQ+ individuals, and other minority groups were gaining momentum, further unsettling those who clung to traditional values and social hierarchies. These changes, while welcomed by many, were seen by some as a threat to their way of life, their values, and their place in the world. The world was changing, and they felt left behind, their voices unheard in a society that seemed increasingly alien and hostile to their values. Trump, with his uncanny ability to tap into the raw emotions of his audience, recognized and exploited these anxieties. He presented himself as a bulwark against the forces of change, a strong man who would build walls, bring back jobs, and restore America to its former glory. His message resonated with those who felt lost in a sea of uncertainty, yearning for a captain who would steer them to a safe harbor. Beyond the real worries about money problems and cultural changes, there's a deeper, more basic fear. The fear of losing who you are, of not belonging in a world that doesn't seem to share your values and traditions anymore. This fear, often unspoken but deeply felt, was a powerful motivator for many of Trump's supporters. Social identity theory, an important idea in social psychology, says that people get a lot of their self-worth and sense of belonging from the groups they're a part of. These groups can be based on nationality, race, religion, or even shared political beliefs. When these group identities are threatened or seen as under attack, people can react with fear, anger, and a desire to protect their group and its values. Whether on purpose or not, Trump understood the power of group identity. Immigrants, Muslims, liberals, elites, and the media. This divisive us versus them language really connected with people who felt like their identity and values were under siege. His promise to make America great again was, basically, a promise to bring back that lost sense of belonging, a return to a time when their group identity was dominant and unchallenged. He gave them recognition, validation, and a sense of purpose in a world they felt had left them behind. The intense loyalty that Trump inspired in his core supporters, in part, reflects this deep need to belong. They saw in him a defender of their values, a champion for their identity, a leader who promised to restore their place in a world they felt had forgotten them. Part 3. Rebel with a Cause, Rejecting the Elite Consensus. Donald Trump's appeal went beyond just economic anxieties and identity politics. He also tapped into a wave of anti-elitism and distrust of authority, which resonated with people who felt ignored, silenced, or looked down upon by the cultural and political establishment. He positioned himself as a rebel, a disruptor, a champion of the common person against what they saw as the tyranny of political correctness and the rigid conformity of the liberal elite. His off-the-cuff style, his disregard for political correctness, and his willingness to challenge established norms were seen by his supporters as signs of authenticity, proof that he wasn't bound by the forces they believed were the cause of their grievances. He spoke their language, echoed their frustrations, and validated their anger towards a system they believed was working against them. This rejection of the elite consensus was especially potent in an era of growing distrust of institutions. The mainstream media, once seen as a trusted source of information, was now viewed by many as biased, partisan, and out of touch. Politicians, regardless of party, were seen as corrupt, self-serving, and more concerned with maintaining the status quo than addressing the concerns of ordinary people. Trump's willingness to challenge these institutions, dismiss expert opinion, and embrace conspiracy theories resonated with those who felt alienated from mainstream discourse. He told them what they wanted to hear, confirmed their suspicions, and validated their distrust of those in power. This anti-establishment sentiment, fueled by a mix of legitimate grievances and carefully cultivated resentment, became a powerful force in American politics. It allowed Trump to position himself as the ultimate outsider, the champion of the forgotten, the only one who could drain the swamp and return power to the people. His message, however simplistic or misleading, resonated with those who felt unheard, unseen, and unrepresented by the existing power structure. Part 1. The People's Champion. Donald Trump's political success is tied to the rise of populism worldwide, a political style that emphasizes the division between the pure people and the corrupt elite. Trump, with his image as an outsider and his constant attacks on those in power, embodied this populist spirit, tapping into a deep resentment towards those seen as holding power and privilege. Central to Trump's populist appeal was his ability to portray himself as a champion of the forgotten, the everyday Americans who felt left behind, sidelined, and abandoned by the forces of globalization, economic change, and cultural liberalism. He spoke directly to their anxieties, echoed their frustrations, and promised to fight for their interests against a system they believed was rigged against them. This message resonated particularly strongly with white working-class voters who had experienced economic hardship and felt increasingly alienated from a culture they perceived as increasingly hostile to their values. Trump offered them recognition, validation, and a sense of belonging in a world they felt had left them behind. However, Trump's populist rhetoric often blurred the lines between legitimate grievances and dangerous scapegoating. He frequently targeted immigrants, Muslims, and other minority groups, portraying them as threats to national security, economic prosperity, and cultural cohesion. This divisive rhetoric, while appealing to some, further inflamed social tensions and deepened existing divides within American society. Part 2. America First. Intertwined with Trump's populist appeal was a strong current of nationalism, a belief in the inherent superiority of one's nation, and a desire to put the nation's interests above all else. Trump's America First slogan, echoing the isolationist rhetoric of the 1930s, resonated with those who felt that the United States had lost its way on the world stage, entangled in costly foreign interventions and unfair trade deals that benefited others at the expense of American workers. Trump's nationalist rhetoric tapped into deep anxieties about America's declining global influence and the perception that the country was being taken advantage of by both allies and enemies. He promised to restore American strength and sovereignty, renegotiate trade deals in America's favor, and end what he saw as America's unfair burden in global affairs. This message appealed to those who longed for a return to a time when America was seen as the undisputed leader of the free world, a symbol of strength and prosperity. Trump promised to make America great again, restoring the country's former glory by putting its interests first, regardless of the concerns or objections of allies or international organizations. However, this nationalist sentiment often manifested itself in a rejection of multilateralism, a suspicion of international institutions, and a disdain for diplomacy and compromise. Trump's withdrawal from international agreements, imposition of tariffs, and confrontational approach to foreign policy alienated allies, strained relationships, and raised concerns about America's commitment to global stability and cooperation. Donald Trump's presidency was a turning point in American politics. It started a time of deep division. It made identity politics, focusing on people's race or gender, a major force. Whether he meant to or not, Trump used those social and cultural divides, turning Americans against each other based on things like race, religion, gender, and political beliefs. His words, often stirring up strong feelings and creating divisions, tapped into the anger and worry of some white Americans who felt left behind in a fast-changing society. They saw Trump as someone who would protect their values, their way of life, a leader who promised to give them back their place in a world they felt had abandoned them. Trump's time as president gave strength to white nationalist groups who saw his words as agreeing with their beliefs. His policies on immigration, especially separating families at the border and trying to stop travel from some countries with mostly Muslim populations, were widely criticized as discriminatory and inhumane, increasing tension and creating deeper divides in American society. The rise of identity politics, while not entirely caused by Trump, was definitely made bigger by his presidency. His words and policies created an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty, especially among minority groups, who felt increasingly vulnerable and targeted. This, in turn, led to a backlash, with groups mobilizing to protect their rights and challenge what they saw as discriminatory policies and rhetoric. The result was a society increasingly divided based on identity, with each side viewing the other with suspicion, hostility, and a lack of understanding. This polarization, fueled by partisan media and the echo chambers of social media, created a climate of distrust and animosity, making it harder and harder to find common ground or engage in constructive dialogue. The media landscape, undergoing a period of rapid transformation, played a significant role in the rise of Donald Trump and the subsequent political polarization that has become a hallmark of American politics. Trump, a master of self-promotion and a keen observer of media dynamics, understood how to exploit the changing media landscape to his advantage, amplifying his message and consolidating his base. Traditional media, particularly cable news networks, played a crucial role in Trump's ascendance. Driven by an insatiable appetite for ratings and the need to fill airtime with compelling content, these networks provided Trump with an unprecedented platform to present his views, often unfiltered and unchallenged. His rallies, overflowing with enthusiastic supporters and punctuated by controversial pronouncements, became must-see TV, drawing viewers and boosting ratings. Trump's mastery of social media, particularly Twitter, further amplified his reach. He used the platform to bypass the gatekeepers of traditional media, communicating directly with the public, controlling his narrative, and setting the news agenda on his own terms. His tweets, often impulsive, provocative, and riddled with inaccuracies, became instant news alerts, dominating online discourse and shaping public perception. This constant exposure, coupled with his penchant for generating controversy, ensured that Trump remained at the forefront of the national conversation. His supporters, bombarded with pro-Trump content from both traditional and social media, felt validated in their views, while his detractors grew increasingly frustrated with a media landscape seemingly incapable of holding him accountable. The rise of social media platforms, while connecting people in ways never before possible, has also contributed to the creation of echo chambers and filter bubbles, online spaces where people are primarily exposed to information that confirms their existing beliefs and biases. This phenomenon has had a profound impact on political discourse, exacerbating polarization and making it increasingly difficult for those with differing viewpoints to find common ground. Social media algorithms designed to maximize user engagement often prioritize content that aligns with an individual's past behavior and preferences. This creates a feedback loop where users are increasingly exposed to information that reinforces their existing worldview, while dissenting or challenging perspectives are filtered out. This self-reinforcing cycle creates a distorted perception of reality, where individuals are less likely to encounter diverse viewpoints or engage in critical thinking about their own beliefs. This can lead to increased polarization, as individuals retreat further into their ideological groups, their views reinforced by like-minded individuals and insulated from opposing perspectives. The rise of partisan media outlets, both online and on cable television, has exacerbated this trend. These media outlets, often more concerned with validating the biases of their audience than presenting balanced reporting, contribute to a media environment where facts are often disputed and truth itself becomes a matter of opinion. This erosion of shared reality, fueled by echo chambers, filter bubbles, and partisan media, has had a corrosive impact on political discourse. It makes it increasingly difficult to have meaningful conversations across ideological divides, to find common ground, or to engage in the kind of reasoned debate necessary for a healthy democracy. One of the most worrying trends in American politics in recent decades is the rise of negative partisanship, a phenomenon where people are driven more by opposition to the opposing political party than by support for their own party. This trend, fueled by the media landscape and the rise of identity politics, has contributed to a toxic political environment characterized by gridlock, hostility, and a decline in civility. In the past, people often held mixed views about political parties and candidates, seeking common ground between the sides and recognizing the legitimacy of opposing viewpoints. However, in today's hyper-partisan atmosphere, people are more likely to view the opposing party as a threat to their values, their way of life, and even the future of the country. This perception of the opposing party as an existential threat has profound negative consequences for democratic governance. It creates a zero-sum mentality, where compromise is seen as weakness, and any concession to the other side is viewed as a betrayal. This makes it incredibly difficult to find common ground, pass meaningful legislation, or address pressing national challenges. Negative partisanship is further exacerbated by the media landscape, where partisan media outlets routinely demonize the opposition and portray their own side as righteous and infallible. This constant barrage of negativity fuels anger, resentment, and distrust, making it increasingly difficult for people to engage in civil dialogue or find common ground. The rise of negative partisanship is a worrying trend that threatens the very foundation of American democracy. It undermines the spirit of compromise and cooperation, which are essential for effective governance, and it creates a hostile and divisive atmosphere that makes it increasingly difficult to address the complex challenges facing the nation. Even though Donald Trump's time in the Oval Office ended in January 2021, the aftershocks of his presidency continue to spread throughout American society, casting a long shadow over the political landscape. The aftermath of the 2020 election, marked by unprecedented challenges to its legitimacy, and culminating in the shocking events of the January 6th Capitol riot, has deepened the fissures in the American psyche. Trump's persistent and unfounded claims of widespread voter fraud, despite being repeatedly rejected by election officials and courts across the country, have sown doubt and distrust in the electoral process. These claims, amplified by a biased media ecosystem more interested in validating existing prejudices than reporting the truth, have taken root in a significant portion of the population, particularly among Trump's most ardent supporters. The result is an erosion of faith in one of the most fundamental tenets of a democratic society: the peaceful transfer of power based on the will of the people. This erosion of trust, fueled by misinformation, disinformation, and outright conspiracy theories, has created fertile ground for skepticism towards democratic institutions and a willingness to consider alternative and potentially dangerous paths to political power. The events of January 6, 2021, when a mob of Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol building in an attempt to prevent the certification of Joe Biden's electoral victory, served as a stark and chilling reminder of the fragility of democratic norms. The riot, fueled by months of inflammatory rhetoric and baseless claims of a stolen election, shook the nation and the world, underscoring the real-world consequences of political polarization and the erosion of democratic norms. The aftershocks of the Trump presidency continue to reverberate throughout the Republican Party, leaving it grappling with its identity and future direction. Trump's enduring support within a substantial segment of the Republican Party has reshaped the party, pushing it further to the right and elevating a brand of populist nationalist politics that often prioritizes loyalty to Trump over traditional conservative principles. Despite losing the 2020 election and facing widespread criticism for his role in inciting the January 6th Capitol riot, Trump remains a powerful force within the Republican Party. He continues to hold rallies, endorse candidates in Republican primaries, and use his platform to attack his critics and spread his message. This hold over the party has led to internal divisions within the Republican ranks, with those who remain loyal to Trump facing off against those who are increasingly uncomfortable with his rhetoric and grip on the party. This internal struggle has played out in Republican primaries across the country, with Trump-endorsed candidates often squaring off against more traditional conservatives, creating a battle for the soul of the party. This transformation of the Republican Party has significant implications for the future of American politics. It remains to be seen whether the party can heal its internal divisions and chart a path forward that appeals to both its base and moderate voters. The outcome of this internal struggle will likely shape the political landscape for years to come, impacting everything from policy debates to the tone and tenor of political discourse. Mr. Trump's presidency has left an undeniable mark on American society, deepening existing social and political divisions and raising profound questions about the future of American democracy. His presidency's legacy is one of increased polarization, a deepening erosion of trust in institutions, and a political discourse increasingly characterized by anger, resentment, and a lack of civility. Political polarization, which has shaped America in recent decades, reached new heights during the Trump era. Mr. Trump's divisive rhetoric, his willingness to exploit social and cultural anxieties, and his attacks on the media and other institutions all contributed to a climate of distrust and animosity. This polarization has extended beyond the political sphere, seeping into everyday life and poisoning social interactions. Americans are increasingly divided along partisan lines, with differences in political views often spilling over into personal relationships, workplaces, and even families. This tribalism, fueled by a constant diet of partisan news and social media echo chambers, makes it increasingly difficult for Americans to find common ground, engage in civil dialogue, or bridge the divides that separate them. The erosion of trust in institutions, which predates Mr. Trump's arrival on the political scene, accelerated during his presidency. His attacks on the media, the judiciary, law enforcement agencies, and intelligence agencies further undermined public trust in these institutions, leaving many Americans feeling disillusioned and disengaged from the political process. The troubling legacy of the Trump era is a reminder of the fragility of democratic norms and the importance of vigilance in safeguarding them. The future of American democracy depends on the willingness of citizens to engage in good faith, respect differing viewpoints, and hold their leaders accountable for their actions. It requires a commitment to truth, a rejection of extremism, and a willingness to bridge divides rather than exploit them. The road ahead will be challenging, but the stakes are too high to ignore the lessons of the recent past. As the dust settles from the Trump era, the Republican Party finds itself at a critical juncture, grappling with its identity and future direction. The forces unleashed by Trump's presidency, from the rise of populism and nationalism to the deepening of partisan divisions, have left the party wrestling with fundamental questions about its core principles and the path to electoral success. One of the most pressing questions facing the Republican Party is the extent to which it will remain tied to the legacy of Donald Trump. Trump's enduring support within a significant segment of the Republican base, coupled with his tendency to reward loyalty and punish dissent, has created a climate of fear and uncertainty within the party. Many Republican politicians, fearful of alienating Trump's supporters, have chosen to embrace his rhetoric and policies, even when they contradict their principles or the interests of their constituents. This Faustian bargain has come at a cost. The Republican Party, once a bastion of fiscal conservatism and limited government, has increasingly embraced populist policies, such as trade protectionism and increased government spending, that run counter to its traditional orthodoxy. This shift has alienated some moderate and independent voters, making it harder for the party to broaden its appeal and win general elections. The path forward for the Republican Party remains uncertain. Some within the party believe that the best way to win elections is to double down on Trump's populist message, appealing to cultural anxieties and economic grievances. Others argue that the party must moderate its tone, embrace more inclusive rhetoric, and focus on policy solutions that appeal to a broader range of voters. The outcome of this internal struggle will shape not only the future of the Republican Party but also the direction of American politics in the years to come. The Democratic Party, even though they won back the White House and Congress after the Trump years, still has its own problems. They have to figure out how to run a country that's really divided and plan for the future. The party has to deal with the different demands of the progressive and moderate sides. They need to balance calls for everyone to work together with making sure people are held accountable. And they have to address the economic and social worries that helped Trump get elected in the first place. One of the biggest challenges for the Democrats is staying united. The party has lots of different people with many different ideas, from moderates to progressive activists who want big changes. This diversity is a good thing, but it can also cause arguments, especially when the party has to decide what's most important and how to fix problems. The Democrats also have to decide how much they want to hold the Trump administration accountable for what happened, especially after the attack on the Capitol on January 6th. Some in the party think it's super important to hold Trump and his allies responsible for their actions to protect democracy and prevent future abuses of power. Others argue that focusing on the past will just make the country more divided, and the party should focus on moving forward and addressing the needs of the American people. The Democratic Party also has to deal with the rise of progressivism, which has gained a lot of support in recent years, driven by concerns about economic inequality, racial injustice, and climate change. Progressive activists have played a big role in shaping the party's agenda, pushing for bold policy solutions like Medicare for All and the Green New Deal. However, these proposals, while popular with the party's base, face significant hurdles in a divided Congress and could alienate moderate voters. Figuring out how to balance the demands of their base with the need to appeal to a broader range of voters will be a major challenge for the Democratic Party in the years to come. The digital age, while offering incredible opportunities for communication, connection, and information sharing, also presents significant challenges for democratic societies. The rise of social media, the spread of misinformation, and the erosion of trust in traditional media outlets have all contributed to a political landscape characterized by polarization, fragmentation, and a decline in civil discourse. The very tools once hailed as democratizing forces, empowering individuals and giving voice to the marginalized, have, in the hands of demagogues and those seeking to sow division, become weapons of manipulation and control. Social media algorithms designed to maximize user engagement often prioritize sensational content and reinforce existing biases, creating echo chambers where individuals are rarely exposed to opposing viewpoints or challenged to think critically about their own beliefs. This fragmentation of the information ecosystem has eroded the shared understanding of reality essential for a functioning democracy. As individuals are exposed to different versions of events, often filtered through partisan lenses, it becomes increasingly difficult to find common ground, agree on basic facts, or engage in constructive dialogue. Addressing these challenges will require a multifaceted approach, involving governments, tech companies, and citizens themselves. Governments will need to grapple with the complex issue of regulating social media platforms, balancing concerns about free speech with the need to combat misinformation and protect democratic processes. Tech companies must take responsibility for the content shared on their platforms, investing in technologies and strategies to combat misinformation, promote media literacy, and encourage more constructive online interactions. Ultimately, however, the responsibility rests with citizens themselves. People must cultivate media literacy skills, learning to evaluate information critically, check sources, and be wary of emotionally charged content designed to manipulate rather than inform. They must engage in civil discourse, even with those with whom they disagree, seeking common ground and recognizing the shared humanity that binds us together. The future of democracy in the digital age depends on our collective ability to navigate the challenges and harness the potential of this transformative technology. There's no denying Donald Trump's impact on American politics. His presidency was a pivotal moment in American history. It revealed deep divisions in the American psyche. These divisions stem from historical legacies, economic anxieties, and cultural shifts. Trump's rise was fueled by a potent mix of populism, nationalism, and identity politics. He skillfully tapped into these sentiments to build a loyal following. Trump's presidency also highlighted the profound influence of the media. The media landscape, characterized by partisan news outlets and social media echo chambers, played a key role in amplifying his message. It also deepened political polarization. The spread of misinformation and disinformation further eroded trust in institutions. This made constructive dialogue across ideological divides increasingly difficult. The psychological factors that propelled Trump to power remain potent forces in American society. Feelings of fear, resentment, and a desire for a strong leader continue to shape political attitudes. The search for belonging and the fear of losing one's identity in a rapidly changing world continue to fuel political tribalism. These anxieties are often exploited by politicians to divide rather than unite. Trump's presidency tested the resilience of American democracy. His attacks on democratic norms, his efforts to undermine the legitimacy of elections, and his incitement of violence raised serious concerns about the future of American democracy. The events of January 6, 2021, were a stark reminder of the fragility of democratic institutions. They also highlighted the importance of civic engagement and the rule of law. The United States is at a crossroads. The path ahead is filled with uncertainty. The forces that fueled Trump's rise, polarization, distrust, and the erosion of democratic norms, remain potent threats. Addressing these challenges will require a concerted effort from citizens, leaders, and institutions. Citizens must engage in self-reflection, critically examine their own biases, and seek out diverse perspectives. They must resist the temptation of simple solutions and easy answers. They must demand more from their leaders, holding them accountable for their words and actions. They must engage in civil dialogue even, and especially, when it is difficult. Leaders must prioritize unity over division. They must reject the politics of fear and resentment. They must focus on finding common ground and building bridges across ideological divides. They must restore faith in institutions by acting with integrity, transparency, and a commitment to the common good. Institutions, from the media to the government to the education system, must play a role in strengthening democratic norms. The media must prioritize factual reporting over sensationalism. It must provide a platform for diverse voices and perspectives. The government must ensure the integrity of elections. It must protect the rights of all citizens. The education system must equip citizens with the critical thinking skills necessary to navigate the complexities of the digital age and participate effectively in a democratic society. The future of American democracy depends on the choices made today. It requires a collective commitment to the values of liberty, equality, and justice for all. It demands a recognition that democracy is not a spectator sport. It is a participatory process that requires vigilance, engagement, and a willingness to defend its fundamental principles. The road ahead will be challenging, but the price of despair or complacency is too high. The time for action is now.